All right. Perfect. So I hope you guys can all see and hear me. Welcome to our first Australian webinar where we are going to be digitizing a manufacturing business here. This webinar is beyond the spreadsheet. We're going to be doing a case study on the topic, and welcome all, and let's get to it. So first of all, my name's Ron. I work directly in our Australian Odoo office here. I'm a direct sales executive, and I have a lot of experience around manufacturing industries, as well as a lot of different sectors here for Australia. Now, a bit of an agenda of what we're actually going to cover today. Firstly, I'm just going to do a quick introduction to Odoo, so what we are, what we do. We're going to talk about the case study that I'll be demoing. We're going to jump into said demo, and then of course there's going to be time for a Q&A at the end. So as we go through, we've got a chat, so if you have any questions, feel free to put those in, and we're going to get to that at the end. So what is Odoo? Odoo is an ERP software. An ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planner, but in simple terms, it's just an all-in-one management software. So we're a software that manages all departments of your business. Now this screen is what Odoo looks like. We're going to jump into that shortly. But a bit more about the company itself as a background. We're global. We have lots of different offices around Earth. Of course, we're here on the Gold Coast in Australia, but we are a Belgium-founded company, so we do have a lot of offices there. Globally, about 8,000 employees, 21 offices total, over 16 million happy users, and we've got some more stats of our investments too. So now to why a lot of you are probably here today is how can Odoo help your business? Now, what we find, and in my experience, what I see on my day-to-day when speaking to so many businesses is that they start out, and as they begin and have inventory, they may quickly grab a spreadsheet system, manage the stock. Or they may need an accounting system, and they'll just grab those standalone systems to manage just those things. But while it works for the time being, it becomes a bit of an issue when you're trying to scale. And where Odoo really steps in is it lets you manage all those core departments in the one business. So you're not having issues between trying to migrate information from your customers to your employees to your accounting people. It's just a lot cleaner when everything's in the one system. Speaking of our system, this slide here is just a bit of a breakdown of the different sort of suite of applications we have in the system. So we've got apps not just for manufacturing, which is what we're covering today, but we've also got solutions across sales, HR, operational, website, finance as well. Not a lot of people realize that you can actually replace a lot and have majority of your business handled just by the one system. So let's jump into the topic of the case study today. So today you're going to be the founder of your own Aura PC. Your mission is going to be digitizing your business with an all-in-one solution, which is of course Odoo. And Aura PC is a dual model computer supplier operating for both wholesale and retail sectors. So what this company does is they sell custom built computers, which they of course manufacture, as well as stock computers and accessories to both large corporations and individual consumers. So the core part of the business is in-house manufacturing of the PCs, so like building them, testing them, packing them, so on. But it's important to know the workflow essentially stems from a sale and goes all the way through design and, of course, those different work processes I mentioned. Now, this company of mine, I'm the founder, it has some issues, and some issues that are bugging me, and of course I want to fix by streamlining my business with Odoo. So the first one is I've got data silos. So between sales and production, both of them are really operated in Excel at the moment. So there's a bit of version control issues at the moment, whether it's for bill of materials, us using outdated parts, or if it's us receiving a design file from the customer and it's in an email and there's not really an easy way to connect that. And that sort of leads to the next point, which is with the systems being in spreadsheets, we have a really fragmented workflow. So operationally, it's really hard to plan based on real-time stock levels and availabilities. So trying to see how much availability we have to test or build next week or tomorrow, I really don't have that visibility at the moment. And this also affects my procurement. So ideally, I want to do lean manufacturing, but since I don't have a good system at the moment, I have either over purchasing or under purchasing, and under purchasing often leads me to have delays with customers as well, which is not great. The next things which have been quite hard to handle on my spreadsheet is traceability. So with these computers, we deal with a lot of expensive parts. Some of these parts are serialized as well, and we don't have an easy way to track which parts are in which computer, and also what quality steps we're actually doing at what times. It's really hard to enforce, especially if you're in a spreadsheet. It's really not the funnest thing to be doing. And it's not that enforceable. It's sort of just a spreadsheet. And a big thing is if we sell a computer and a customer has a complaint about said computer, we can't really dig down and see what the root cause of that issue is at the moment. So really, I'm looking to fix that. And the last one, as the founder, which really bugs me, is I currently lack real-time visibility on my financials. So we're a manufacturing business at heart, and I can't see my material costs. I can't see my labor costs per job. So I'm really not having any margins, to be honest. No one computer would cost the exact same, and I currently can't see that. So ideally, if all the data is going to be in this one system, I should fix that. Now that we know my issues, let's jump into Odoo and I'll show you how we can actually fix that. So this is my database of Odoo here. And you can see it's similar to that slide I showed you just a second ago, where we've got a bunch of applications on the screen. Now, for today, what we're going to be focusing on is, of course, manufacturing applications. So we'll be tying into this manufacturing app here, which is linked with this application called Shop Floor. But it's also important to know that other core modules such as sales, inventory, purchase are very closely linked, and we will loosely touch on those today as well. So firstly, let's run through the sale. So that's where everything starts, with a custom order for a computer. So if I click on the sales tab, it's going to take me into a view of my orders. So I can see my existing quotes, my existing sales, and I've been working with Mr. Bean, and I've got a sale order right up top, which I've got a quote out to him. So if I click on that, I can immediately see some information. Firstly, I can see I sent the quote out to him not too long ago. He sent me a message to say, hey, if you can confirm the dispatch by the end of this month, he'll be a happy chap. I can see other information such as the specific product, my current margins, that's based on previous manufacturing, which is great. But given Mr. Bean has asked for us to dispatch by the end of this month, as a sales role right now, I need to make sure that's communicated, and we'll also see how Odoo flows that date through the other procedures here. So if I click on other info, I can specify that delivery date, and say I put that for the Friday before the end of the month. Odoo is going to give me a little bit of a warning saying, hey, this date is a bit sooner than expected, just because I'm a bit busy at the moment, I guess. But I'm going to set that date because it's a pretty big priority for Mr. Bean, and that way the rest of my team is likely going to prioritize this, which we'll see soon. So now that I've said that, I can go about confirming this, and what I'd like to do now is show you two bits of functionality which we're going to see throughout the demonstration today. First, and most importantly, is these buttons at the top of my screen. So we've got this button with a little truck called delivery, and this button for manufacturing. Essentially, what these buttons are is the links between Odoo and other applications. So right now we're looking at a sale order. However, this button could take me directly to the manufacturing order related to the sale. Because we've sold a physical product, Odoo's created the delivery. Because we don't have that physical product in stock, Odoo's created the manufacturing order. So that's essentially what it's doing there. And at any given point, I can use those buttons to click directly into, say, the delivery, or click directly into the manufacturing order, and very easily click back to where I was a second ago, which is a lot easier than my spreadsheets. Then the second bit, just before we jump into the manufacturing app, is this section on the right. Now, you're going to see this throughout today. This area is called our chatter. It's essentially where any communication, whether it's external with the customer, as you can see with Mr. Bean, or if it's internal, maybe I log a certain message and tag a colleague, that's going to be saved here. It can also be for setting myself reminders, or what will come into play later is attaching certain design files as well, maybe too. So now we've got the sale, let's go and see how we actually go about manufacturing things in Odoo. So I'm going to jump out here, back to my main tab, and I'm going to jump into my manufacturing app right here. So firstly, what I'm going to see is a quick overview of my different work areas. So I can see my capacity in each station on a date-by-date range, so immediately seeing if there's any issues. For example, this week I have an excess load of 14 hours in my testing station, so I do know I'm quite busy. Maybe I'm going to need to push some orders back to next week. Otherwise, my building station looks quite good too. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into operations here and click onto manufacturing orders, and let's have a look at what we've got to do. So here we are. I can see a big old list of all my manufacturing orders, some of which are quite a high priority, some things are in progress, but that manufacturing order that came from the sale we just made to Mr. Bean is this one right here, sale order number 13. And we can see we've got an issue with this one. The components aren't available. So given we need to dispatch this by the end of the month, let's click on it and have a look what we can do about it. So immediately on the manufacturing order, I can see that Odoo's reserved the stock. It's used our bill of materials for that custom PEC to generate this manufacturing order. And it's scheduled it for the earliest day it finds possible to meet the customer's deadline, which is great. I can see, hey, this 32 gigabyte of RAM at the bottom is not available. But I can't exactly see just on this screen a big overview of everything. That's why we have this button up the top, which is going to give us a direct overview of the manufacturing order. If I click on that, I can then see of my components, how much I have on hand, how much is free to use. And I can see I have 12 of these products on hand, but 0 of them are free to use, which must mean that they're already in active manufacturing orders or they're reserved for other customers who need them. I can also see other information such as how long I'm expected to be working on this job. So this one should take me 30 minutes to build, 2 hours to test, 15 minutes to pack. And that's also going to filter into my planning when I go about planning this job, which I'll show you in a second. Now, something I want to highlight is a bit of information I didn't have before, which is these exact unit costs. So each manufacturing order is taking into account the exact average cost of all of my components. And as we progress later, if my employees are tracking their time, it's also going to factor in the labor costs too. Clicking back, we've got to sort this issue with this product so we can go about making it. Now, this is a white product. I think just off the top of my head, I've actually got the black version available. So I'll type for that, I'll click it, and I've just been able to easily adjust my bill of materials. And I now have a component status that has changed to available. Odoo's automatically marked this as ready, and I can click this button here to plan the job and start working on it. Awesome. So now that it's planned, 2 things are going to happen inside the Odoo system that's going to help me a lot. Now, I mentioned before when I was talking about my issues is that the planner can't really see, in this case, I'm planning, but anyone who's trying to plan out the day or the week can't really see what's ahead of them. In Odoo, when you've got all your orders, we can click on this planning tab and we can choose to plan by productions or plan by work centers. Since we have a very high volume of manufacturing orders in my business, I'm choosing to plan by work center, and I can very easily see on my month-to-month basis, or per se my week-to-week basis, what jobs I have on today, tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And I can very easily expand, adjust this view. It's very easy for me to drag and drop certain manufacturing orders or jobs and adjust them as per needed. I could also change this view and potentially work on, instead of a work center basis, I can assign this based on my employees that are available, and I can see the according capacities as well, just to make sure that I'm not giving them 12 hours work on an 8-hour workday. So that's the first thing that Odoo's done. Odoo's planned it into this schedule that I can work off. The second thing is Odoo's now sent this job into our application called Shop Floor. Now, I hinted at Shop Floor before, but what it is it's an app that's very closely linked to manufacturing that is a lot more friendly for the workers who are actually pushing forward the job, which is really important. You don't want a system that is clunky or hard to use. It's got to be very easy, whether they're on a phone, tablet, whatever it might be. So let's jump into that app. All right. So essentially, it's a much nicer, bigger job card system where I can see a big overview of all the jobs we have to do. Now, this is everything. So these are all my orders, but I can also break this down by what jobs I have in my different areas. So I have 13 jobs total. 9 of them are in the building station, which need to be built. Some of them are in progress, which are currently being tested, packed, and so on. And I can very easily see what jobs are in progress and go through there. The other one is I can very easily click on the employee who I am. So I'm Ron, so I'll click on myself. And that way you're going to have really accurate costing. So if I'm paid $10 an hour and Perry the Packer's paid 20, that's going to factor into, of course, my product cost to make them really exact. Now, that computer that Mr. Bean just ordered was manufacturing order number 22. So to make it easier for you guys to see, I'm going to filter that out. It's this one right here. I can see exactly what product variant it is, so I know what I'm making. I can click start, and that's going to start the timer for my work on this job. And I'm essentially building it at the moment. Now, some things I need to do in this area is register the serial numbers. So I'm putting some products in the computer. I can either barcode those into the Odoo system, since Odoo has barcode functionality. And once I've done that, I can tick off on this quality check, confirming that I've done it. And that's sort of my way that, I can audit my staff, audit myself in this case scenario, and make sure that the right things are going into the right computers and we know what's been done. Now, once I've built something and say finished my work order, I can mark it as done, and Odoo's going to send this job to the next station. So for this product, it's going to the testing station. We can see that here. Now, in these different stations, you can have different people working. So maybe it's not myself who's doing the testing. Maybe Tom, the tester, he gets involved. He starts working on it, and he can just keep working on that and multiple jobs at the same time if needed. If Tom is a bit overwhelmed, or maybe he needs my advice, he can call me in, and I can also work on the job at the same time as him too. So I can come in here, click on my name, click on the job, and then we're both going to be timesheeting against the cost of this job. Now, some things I can see that I need to do. So I mentioned quality control was a really big part of our production process here. So I've got 2 quality checks I need to do. I need to take a thermal measurement for the computer to make sure it's not running over the expected temperature. So I'll click on that, and I've got to take a measurement. So I'll say, I've done my measurement, it's measured at 90 degrees. I'll save that. Odoo's then saved that to the job. Then I have to take my electrical measurement. I take it. Say maybe I don't know exactly what I'm measuring. I can click the info, and I need to do a check on this 12-volt rail on the computer. Then I will check it, and I've measured that at 14 volts. So I'll save that. Odoo's given me an error. So as part of my production for this process, I've specified that this part needs to measure between 11.4 and 12.6. If not, then it's a fail of the quality check, and we can flag that for our employees and flag that against the job. So my role here, maybe I'll change the rail or recalibrate something. I'll take a remeasurement and I will remeasure that. One second. And I'll measure that at, say, 12.2. All right. I believe I've just lost internet for a second, so I'll just refresh and jump into it. I believe I've just lost some internet. Alrighty. While we get this internet sorted back up, it is important to know that Odoo is... Oh, actually, I think we've got it. Never mind. I think we're good. Okay, so my internet's back up, and I'll get back to where I was. So we were taking an electrical measurement at the testing station. So there we go. Odoo's remembered it. It says we failed. We've got to measure it again. So we'll come back in here, measure it at 12.2, and we're good. So we'll save that up. Come at a green. We've passed it. All good. And we'll mark that as done. Now, one more thing I wanted to talk about with shop floor is, while it's lovely to say that we just go through the process, we start jobs, we stop jobs, we do our quality checks, things don't always go to plan. Just like we saw, we just had some internet issues. That's all right. But sometimes when we're manufacturing, products might fail. We might need to scrap something. You know, I might drop a computer on the floor because I'm clumsy. Stuff happens. So what we could do in those off-case scenarios is Odoo has these 3 buttons where when we click it, we can do some other actions which will implicate on the rest of Odoo just from this app. So some things we might do is register the serial number of the parts we're using or producing. We may scrap parts. Say if, you know, we went to put the chassis on and it was broken, maybe it fails at the testing station and it needs to go back to the building station. Things like this we can do. So maybe for this customer, we're feeling really generous and we're going to throw in some CPU fans for them. We can add those too, go back, and it's immediately done the back-end work of creating the movement, which we're going to highlight in a moment too. Now, before I can close off the production, Odoo's got one final quality check for me, where we're just going to need to take a photo of the packaged product. So we're going to click on this button. We're going to upload a photo of the box and what it looks like. And then we'll be all good to close off the production. Just before we close off, since we did modify the manufacturing order, we put in those extra fans and we changed the RAM from black to white. Odoo's just confirming that's all correct. We can confirm it. Oh. And should be all good. Still need to do quality checks. Let's double check our manufacturing order and see if we've missed any quality checks. I can click on here. That's passed, all good. And easy. Very quickly like that, we've closed off the production and we've finished our order. So let's jump back into Odoo, back into our manufacturing order, and see what our actions have actually done in the back end of the system. So if we jump in here into the manufacturing app, into the orders, and we search for order number 22, which is the one we just complete for Mr. Bean. When we click on it, we can see exactly when we started, when it went to in progress, and of course, when we finish it. We can also see a lot more buttons up the top. So previously, I think we only had allocation to the sale, the overview, but now we have a button representing the product movements, which if we click on it, it's going to show us what parts went into production to be consumed into this computer. So we've got the red of what's been consumed and the green of what we created. Then we're also going to have a finalized overview, which I love to see from my end, which is going to give me a full breakdown of what the unit cost is for this computer, which for this one is $2,695. And that cost there is going to directly go to my sale order. So the margin is going to be indicative of the exact cost of this part. Now, this area, which should be a bit new to you because you haven't seen it before, this is populating the exact time my employees, including myself, spent on the job. So Tom the tester, he is super expensive. He gets paid $240 an hour. He spent about 0.06 of an hour. That's factored it in, and that's going into my total cost of operations for this part. So literally every bit of time is going into this. Now, the next thing, and the thing I have a little bit of an issue with, is sometimes it's quite hard, as I mentioned, to see what parts go into what computer, such as the graphics card, the RAM. Some of these things are really expensive. Now I can see a traceability report of the manufacturing order, which shows for this PC, serial number 61, we consumed these components at these times. So I can see the chassis has this serial number, the graphics card has this serial number, and so on. And I can actually really dig down and see, okay, this chassis came from this manufacturing order at this time. This manufacturing order consumed these components at this time. And I can really actually click on it and dig deep and deep and deep if I need to. And I really didn't have that level of dexterity before. The other thing I mentioned is sometimes I have a customer who wants to return stuff. It happens. Maybe things don't work. So how we go about that? Say we jump onto the sale and Mr. Bean, we dispatch his product. Let's go about doing that. And to do that, I'll jump into the inventory tab. So in this area, we're going to see an overview of all our delivery orders, all of our manufacturing orders, any goods that are coming in as well. So I'm really going to see all that information quite quickly. And that delivery order we need to send out to Mr. Bean, which is scheduled 8 days from now. That status is ready, so we can actually go about sending that out now. So once we've organized the courier and it's left our warehouse, we can hit validate, and that's confirmed the movement from our stock. And now I can explain to you the flow where a customer, such as Mr. Bean, has an issue with his product. So say fast forward a week, Mr. Bean comes back, he calls me, he complains, he says, hey, my computer has an issue with the electrics. Sometimes it's bugging, it's not turning on. So I say, no worries, what's your serial number? Then I can very easily, from my Odoo database, search up my serial numbers. I can search up serial number 61, and I can see that I have that serial number for that PC at my customer's location. I can click on it, and I can see all relevant information related to this serial number. I can very easily access the sale that was related to Mr. Bean at just a click of a button. I can access the transfers, but importantly, I can access the quality checks, so I can see what might have gone wrong. Mr. Bean is saying there's an electrical issue. I can click down, I can see the photo of the packaged product looks good. doesn't look like there's any issues. I can click down the line, and then I can see for the electrical measurement, Ronisaf actually failed this measurement at 14.0 and then remeasured it a couple of minutes later at 12.2. So I'd say my customer probably does have a leg to stand on with this issue, and I can see that information because it's all on the system. All right. So that's that aspect of Odoo. That's the aspect of us creating a sale all the way to manufacturing it, consuming the components, through to the dispatch of it. Now, there's some things I wanted to highlight around inventory management and reporting. So in Odoo, we're now going to have reporting in each application. So in my glorified spreadsheets, I could spin up reports, but it wasn't really easy and wasn't really correct. Now all my reports are going to be showing live data. So whether it's the sales app or the manufacturing app, there's going to be a reporting tab that shows us all the base sort of reports we would want to see for that application. So for manufacturing, I can see I can get reporting on my work orders, my equipment effectiveness, or I can just get a little report on my production analysis. And if I click on this, I can see some measures like how much my different PCs are costing to build. I can look at this sort of information in a lot of different ways. And say I want to spin this up on a nice little pivot table, I can, and I can look at things such as my average employee cost, my quantity produced. Maybe I want to look at the total cost for, the last week and have a little breakdown of that. And I can very easily populate this information, which is all coming from live data. Now, if that's not good enough, we also have my Odoo dashboards, which I can just see an overview report of my different departments very quickly. So dashboards is this application here, and it's where we can consolidate reports from all of the different apps inside Odoo and have it as live data. So here we're of course in a sales dashboards, but if I wanted to see a bit more around manufacturing, I'll click onto manufacturing and I can see my week-to-week production, how much quantities I've been producing in the last 90 days. I can filter that very quickly, see my most produced products. And it's important to know that not just this report, but any report in Odoo is customizable to quite literally any field that exists in the database. That can be used as a point of reference to both build these reports and of course filter them. So yeah, that's a full flow, and that concludes the demo of my Aura PC company. Let's jump back and review on what we actually did. So I had some problems. My problems were data silos, fragmented workflows, traceability gaps, and just my lack of reporting on financials. And the first solution was that now when we confirm a sale order, it immediately triggers my manufacturing order. So it starts the full workflow for me immediately from the sale, as we saw when it created the delivery and the manufacturing orders. The next one is Odoo flags any issues for me with any sort of dispatch dates. So we saw when Mr. Bean wanted his PC by the end of the month, that information went to the manufacturing order, it went to the delivery order, and it made sure that the other teams knew when this needed to go out. The next one is that my operators can use the shop floor app, so they can use that directly to register the serial numbers, so I'm not having issues where I don't know what part is in what computer. They can also use it to do the quality checks. Those quality checks are also mandatory, as we saw. I can't progress without doing them. And that way we're going to catch any issues, we're going to be able to audit our jobs, and if someone complains about a product and we do have an issue, we're going to be able to fix that so we don't have that issue again. And then of course, the final one, which I really love, is Odoo generates my costing reports, my production analysis. It's got all my reporting in the system, whether it's for my manufacturing, my sales, my employee KPIs. Everything's in the system and it's from exact live data. I love it. And yeah, I can just really track all my department's progress and performance very quickly. So that's how I've digitized my business. we're now going to open into a bit of a Q&A. So if you haven't already, feel free to jump some questions in the chat, and I will get to some of those now. All right, so it looks like we have a question for how do you deal with multiple building stations that have different characteristics? That is a pretty good question. So in Odoo, we call these work centers. So it's what we were talking about in manufacturing, where we've got building, testing, packing, but sometimes it's not that simple. You might have 5 building stations, or you might be a manufacturer who works with machines. In Odoo, we can actually set up specific capacities and rules around these work centers, such as how efficient they are, how often they will be working, their costs, and also sometimes you may have product-specific capacities as well. I work with a lot of manufacturers where they have certain machines who can do certain outputs, but they have other machines that, of course, can do the same thing, just a little bit slower. So that's the answer to that question there. There we go. All right, so we have another question. How would this look for larger operations where products are not made to order, but rather manufactured in advance based on forecast demand? Great question. We do see this a lot. Like, Odoo targets a lot of industries. Sometimes it may not be physical products. We also work with manufacturers who may be doing fruit and veg, or products that expire very quickly, and it's really based on forecasts. So in those cases, Odoo has a report called the Master Production Schedule. Now, it's not configured on this database, so I unfortunately can't show you live, but it is something that we can demo for you, where essentially based on your historical forecasts or based on forecasts you input, Odoo can create manufacturing orders either on like a week-to-week, month-to-month, whatever basis as needed, to replicate those scenarios where you work off forecasts and not actual sales. All right. All right, so we have an audit question. What do the control reports look like for raw material, finished goods, and work in progress? Okay. I'm not exactly sure for the specifics of this question by control reports, but Odoo has multiple reports we generate for manufacturing. So whether it's across the components you're looking at or the finished goods, if you've got a little bit more info specifically on that, I'd be happy to dive into it. Then we've got a question just below that. Also, does each operator on the shop floor require their own Odoo user account, or can a shared account be used? Brilliant question. Great question. In Odoo, we have a functionality for shop floor where you can have employees share a user. So in this scenario, say I have 5 builders, and they don't all need to be accessing that one device at the same time. You can have those employees share a license, and that way, instead of 5 employees having a license, you would have 1 license for them. It is important because if they go into the back end of Odoo and they start adjusting other items, it will be audited to the device. All actions inside shop floor, however, including costing and any changes to their work orders, will be directed to the employee, which is very powerful, and for manufacturing businesses will save a lot of money for them too. All right, let's jump into the next question. All right, so how to add overhead costs in a manufacturing order. Another good question. There are multiple ways we can achieve this in Odoo. It does depend on the specific use case, but we can achieve this in multiple ways. Definitely best to reach out directly to us, mention your use case, and we'll show you exactly how it's going to work. Given Odoo is a very vast system, and we do target a lot of industries, there are often multiple ways that something can be achieved, and we really are always going to make sure that we want to find the best way it's going to work for you specifically. Okay. So by control reports, you mention how many goods you have on hand. Okay, let's jump into that. Yeah, okay, so control reports wise, most of those would actually be in inventory. So it may just be a stock report, where you want to look at how much stock you have on hand and filter that potentially by your components. So I can create a filter and see, okay, what components do I have on hand of this? If I want to filter it by my final product, my finished goods, I can directly as well. I can filter it by my product categories, see my costs. Per category, we can also adjust locations, so where in your warehouse these products are going to be stored, what the costing method or removal strategies are as well. And it's important to know Odoo has a lot of versatility around goods processes. So some manufacturers I work with, they have one-step processes where it's goods, manufacture, send. Then for other manufacturers, they may pick the components to a quality location, have the quality approved before it's sent to the manufacturing location, and then same for manufacturing, before it goes to the packing area, it goes to a holding area, and so on and so on. Odoo has a lot of versatility around how we can specify the routing of your goods and also how we can look at reports for those goods as well. Okay, next question. Is there a way to export the manufacturing overview data and not just look at it as a PDF? Yes, there is. Odoo allows you to export data freely. So whether it's for manufacturing or if it's like sales data, inventory data, accounting data, you can export this freely. So if we were talking about manufacturing and we wanted to do that, all we would need to do was select whichever records you wanted to export. We can click onto the actions and we can go export. And all we would need would be a save template of the fields that you'd want to run out. And of course, once it's out of Odoo, if you wanted to manipulate it in whatever way you deemed, that's also more than welcome, up to you. All right. Next question, how does Shopfloor interact / work with the barcode app? Pretty good question. Pretty long question. I could take 2 minutes to answer it or 30 minutes to answer it, so I'll just be quick. Our Shopfloor app allows you to barcode both components, and you can also use barcode for the work orders themselves. Now, our barcode application is very strong. It applies not just for manufacturing, it's any operation type. So it could be, I know I've got a question about returns, but it could be returns, internal transfers, deliveries, receipts, and of course, manufacturing orders. And all of the documents that can be created and used in Odoo are also providable with those barcodes used to manage the operations as well. So it's an incredibly strong application. It does raise the question around how many devices you want your staff using, and a big one I see is a lot of people love barcoding, but if you're not using a barcoding system at the moment, the employee change management is definitely something that you want to get ahead of as soon as you can. Can you demo the return flow? Yes, I can. It's quite an easy one and simple one to demo. We also do have a help desk functionality, which after sales, returns, and support can be handled from. But let's just say Mr. Bean was unhappy. We can either find the delivery from the inventory app, or we can access it from the sale since everything's linked. I can click on that delivery right here. I can see all the information directly with it, and there's a big old button here for return. Now, when I hit return, it's pretty much just going to populate a list of the line items from the delivery and just prompt me to return it. If I am returning it for an exchange, such as they're bringing their computer back, maybe because it's faulty and we're giving them a new one in exchange, I can go return for exchange. Otherwise, if I just hit return, Odoo will immediately create an expected receival of goods from that customer's location. And then as soon as we receive the goods, we can validate it. And that's going to update the traceability of this serial number in the system. So it's going to give us a full overview saying serial number went out at this date, came back in at this date. And then of course I can keep digging down if I wanted to for more information. All right. Can you change the part number for an existing manufacturing order? If by part number you're talking about the serial number of what we made, then yes, we can click on the serial number and we can adjust it. The only conflict is if there is a serial number with, like, you can't have the exact matching serial number for the same product, of course. But I could very easily change this as per needed, type whatever I want and save that in there. And that would be a way I could change the part number or serial number per se. Alrighty. I hope I got through a decent chunk of your questions today. If there are more questions, we are more than happy to answer it. I've got my contact details on the left here if you wanted to flick me an email with any questions. Otherwise, we've got a QR on the right side of my screen here, so you can book an appointment with anyone from our lovely team here in Australia, and would be more than happy to help you guys with a tailored demonstration showing you exactly how it works for your business. And yeah, lastly, thank you all for joining us. That's how we're digitizing businesses with Odoo for manufacturing. And I hope you guys come to more webinars and speak to us soon. Thank you very much.